Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish Podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of Schmurz Day, January 3rd, 2022. Happy New Year. On the show today, news, listener questions, and in our main segment, Jim Hill tells us what it took to finally seal the deal to get the construction of the original Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at Disneyland Park back in February of 1977. Let's get started by bringing in the man who says that platypuses lay eggs and produce milk, so they're a portable source of omelets. It's Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going?
Are you familiar with the piece that Robin Williams used to use in his stand-up act about platypuses?
I can't. No, I'm not actually familiar with that one, Jim. Go ahead.
I'll use less adult language. But if you look at the platypus, you have to think that the Lord above maybe imbibes. I mean, let's take a beaver and put a duck spills on it. It's a mammal, but it lay eggs. It's like, hey, Darwin, kiss my butt.
Now we're all going to go look up that particular clip on YouTube, right?
There we go.
That's awesome. What's the term? Platypuses and another species belong in the class of mammals that lay eggs and give milk. It's a very small class. I think it's an anteater that does it as well, but apparently they're not the only ones. Anyway. And our listeners are now screaming into the radio what the name for it is. So I apologize.
Len, come on, a class. These things were homeschooled. Okay, that's the only thing that makes any sense at all.
All right. All right, Jim, let's do a quick shout out to subscribers over at disneydish.bandcamp.com. Thanks to new subscribers Katie Piet, Mark Bosco, and Scott Suyama, and longtime subscribers EJ Aconite, Michael Midalicki, and Whimsy for You. Jim, these are the hardworking cast members who have to unlock all of the doors every morning that serve as portals at the Monsters, Inc. Mike and Sully to the Rescue ride in Disney California Adventure. They say it's a hard job, but they can wear their hazmat suits at Halloween, and Roz makes a fantastic cranberry tart for the company's holiday parties. True story.
I did not know.
We rarely talk about DCA, but I think we should involve that more.
This is true.
All right, Jim, let's do the news. Folks, the Disney Dish News is brought to you by Storybook Destinations, trusted travel partner of the Disney Dish podcast. For a worry-free travel experience every time, book online at StorybookDestinations.com. Jim, we are down to 3 rooms available now on our first ever Disney Dish cruise in 2022. We're calling this the Disney Dish on the Disney Wish, September 23rd to the 26th. The 3 rooms we have available at whatever price Disney gave us. We have 1 ocean view and 2 balcony rooms available. If you guys are interested in booking, they will probably be gone within a week. StorybookDestinations.com/Disney Dish.
You have a room, right? Because I've received notice
I
that...
literally checked that before I typed this in.
Okay.
And that says that I have an inside stateroom, but she's willing to give it up.
Okay.
If a listener wants to have it, and I would be more than happy sleeping on deck with a blanket.
I see my accommodations may be down in the bilge. I've just been handed a raft.
Deck A? What is Deck A? I thought they were all numbered. What is this? You're below the water level.
That's right.
Jim, we can't give you a window because you're below the surface of the ocean.
Oh dear. Okay.
All right, Jim. Every show should begin with a round of self-congratulations. On a recent Bandcamp exclusive show where we walked around Epcot, you noted that the new Anna and Elsa appearance outside the Summer House was likely to be the way that we do character meet and greets going forward. And lo and behold, that has come to pass. Disney has set up stanchions now outside of Summer House where you can get in line to meet the princesses in a socially distant manner outside of the Summer House. But it looks good.
It does. And especially, when you factor in that Anna and Elsa really are like Elvis and his brother Clevis at this point among Disney celebrities. It's nice that they've set up a way to do this.
And I like that they did it during the winter because it's a movie called Frozen. Mm-hmm. That being said, it is 85 degrees all this weekend in celebration. So I don't know how they're going to deal with that. But, A for effort, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jim, on to listener questions. Here's one from Kyle who says, I'm the designated Disney planner in our family. Jim, I think all of our listeners know what that feels like. Right. I set the bar pretty high a couple of years ago by renting DVC points and having the family have plenty of room to spread out. We did 2 two-bedroom villas. Well, they'd like to go again over Thanksgiving 2022, but with everything going on, they don't want to be locked into renting DVC points. Any suggestions on condos or multi-room suites? We are open to staying offsite. We'll have 7 adults and 1 child that will be 5. and we're looking for at least 4 rooms with a gathering space. So this is interesting, Kyle, because the last couple of years for the unofficial guide, the thing I've worked on is family suites outside of Walt Disney World, because I think this is the one area where Disney's not price competitive. So page 228 of the latest unofficial guide lists 6 options. I'm going to go through 4 of them here. The first one I like is, and this is going to be a surprise to some people, Margaritaville, Orlando. Jim, have you seen this?
No, but I remember on our last trip, you talking with great enthusiasm about this place, and I deliberately put it on my list for the next trip because of how highly you were talking about this place.
Yeah, so the thing I like there aren't the hotel rooms, but the cottages. So first thing I like about Margaritaville, Orlando is that it's right off of Black Lake Road, which is a road that runs perpendicular and then parallel to 192, which means you can go directly from Margaritaville to Disney property through Black Lake Road and then Sherbeth Road without ever having to get on 192. And you end up at the Animal Kingdom Resort area.
One caveat there, just pick your time of day because there's a lot of cast members that know that way in and out as well.
Using the same road, right? Yeah. And there's also, by the way, did you see that there's a new resort being built right outside of Disney property at the Animal Kingdom Lodge?
Oh, no, I did not.
There's that. So the Animal Kingdom Lodge is the extreme end of one corner of Disney's property, and across the street from that, and behind a wall of trees, another resort is being built. But it shouldn't be visible from Animal Kingdom Lodge. And the way that the Animal Kingdom Lodge is situated, there's a parking lot that'll be between that and then the trees too. So shouldn't be any interference with Animal Kingdom Lodge. But yeah, it's interesting to note that area right around the edge, the perimeter of Disney properties now being built up. Anyway, so Margaritaville, Orlando, Kyle, I went back and looked for the week of Thanksgiving, a 4-bedroom condo. Sorry, a 4-bedroom. It's a vacation home. It's a standalone home. Sleeps 10 is about $4,300 all in for the week of Thanksgiving. That gets you 1 king bed, 2 queens, and 2 twins. Plus, I believe the sofa turns into a sleeper. So figure $1,000 a week per bedroom. There's also a 6-bedroom vacation home, which is $6,000 all in. That sleeps, I believe, 14 people. Jim, I have included a photo of the pool in our show notes for you.
Ooh, okay.
And the thing I like about these, so I've actually stayed in these in one of these before. I've stayed in a 4-bedroom. It's very well appointed for what it is. If you've ever rented a home at a beach, like a beach home for a vacation, this is like a level up from that. Everything's clean. Everything worked. Water pressure was good. I thought it was a decent value for it. The other places that I would check would be the Marriott Cypress Harbor and Marriott Imperial Palms, which have 2-bedroom villas that are within a few dollars of that over the course of the day. Like, I don't think you're going to save $1,000 by staying there, but you might save like $100. But that would be 2-bedroom rooms. I'm not sure they're quite as nice, but maybe you can get a deal. Or if you're already a Marriott timeshare member, that might help. Last thing I would check would be the Club Wyndham Cypress Palms, Kyle, which gets really high ratings from our readers. Again, they've got 2-bedroom villas that are going to be about the same price. So that's what I would suggest. But check out Margaritaville first. I think that would be my number one option there.
Got it. Okay.
All right, here's a question from Martin. Actually, it's more of a comment. He says, a couple weeks ago, you guys did something remarkable when you combined 2 of my favorite things, Disney culture and Stephen Sondheim music. I haven't been this excited since Disney produced Sondheim's Into the Woods. Anyway, I thought you both might enjoy a little trivia that will blend Disney and Sondheim in an uncanny way. Think back to the Disney film The Ugly Dachshund. You may recall the film starred Dean Jones and Suzanne Plachette, who were Disney regulars, and featured in a relatively small role Mako. There's a scene in the latter third of the film where Dean Jones and Mako in the same shot, and while watching it last year, I thought, how wonderfully strange that within 10 years, both of them would be playing lead roles on Broadway in Sondheim musicals. Dean Jones would play Bobby in The Landmark Company, and Mako would play the reciter in the Magnificent Pacific Overtures. Whatever Sondheim may have written regarding FastPass, it couldn't have surpassed this sample from Pacific Overtures. Jim, do you want to do this one?
Let's see. Okay. The British feel our latest feelings version of immorality, the element of precedent and peril, our neutrality. We're rather vexed you're giving extraterritoriality. We insisted that you offered this to every nationality. This is from a great number from Pacific Overtures. where it's 5 different countries are represented on stage. America has just left. Commodore Perry's gone. And then suddenly here's England, here's France and Russia. And they're all looking for treaties just like the Americans got. And you would think this can't possibly be something that will be entertaining or funny. But seriously, go chase this down. Second act of Pacific Overtures. I also want to point out just here, he's talking about folks who have done Sondheim, who are in the Disney wheelhouse, so to speak. Angela Lansbury played Eglantine Price in 1971 in Bedknobs and Broomsticks. 79, she's on Broadway as Mrs. Lovett in Sweeney Todd, which I got to see at the Uris Theater, and one of my favorite things in life. I went to go see it like 5 more times in touring companies. And then, Disney lets her back in to be the teapot, Mrs. Potts. So think about it. It's like, well, okay, so you cut up people and you serve them in meat pies, but okay, you can be our cuddly little teapot. Come back, Angela. All is forgiven.
I love that Sondheim put the word extraterritoriality in a song.
No, seriously, Len, you have to chase that, particularly for the end part where it's, détente, you give us everything we want. It's this great song, just absolutely killer song. So.
All right, we'll have to listen to that. All right, last listener question from Christy, who says, in the latest Disney survey I got, they asked about our annual household income. And Jim, you and I have talked about this, how Disney represents the bottom half of American households with 2 survey questions, but the top 4% with like 4 questions on the survey. And Christy goes on to say, but then they asked how much we have in our investable assets in the United States, including our retirement accounts, life insurance, stocks, savings, and so on. Jim, I like how they specified in the United States because, as we all know, money in the Cayman Islands spends differently. But what possible reason is there for asking that question? I guess it's for people whose income doesn't primarily come from working, but who comes from investments.
Just in the past week or so, we have begun to see Bob Chapek putting his new people in place. And didn't we see a new CFO, or did they hang on to the old CFO? I forget.
I believe we extended the CFO.
Okay. So it's not a question of Christine McCarthy's office saying, hey, how deep does the money go? What else could we tap into?
Which professional sports franchises do you or your family own? Please list them here.
Yeah. I mean, but at the same time, the fact that this is something that they do want to start building reference on is a little concerning.
It's a bit much. I mean, the next question is going to be, what is the... please outline the key to your internal safe and let us know the times at which you will not be home.
Remember, Bob Iger doesn't officially go out the door till what, January 2nd? I mean, he's been doing the very last round of his hail and farewell pieces.
He's actually I think in Orlando right now as we're recording this.
Okay,
he's doing his last official trip to World.
And we've seen Bob Chapek moving his team in place. We're going to have to wait 6 or 8 months to see, because he's literally waiting for being respectful and letting Iger walk out of the building. And it's just going to be interesting to see where we go next. But yeah, this is a little concerning that these are the sorts of questions that are getting asked now. Because again, Disney always builds surveys with a goal in mind.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Jim tells us about the construction of the original Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at Disneyland Park. We'll be right back.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Every story you love, every invention that moves you, every idea you wished was yours, all began as nothing. Just a blank page with a blinking cursor, asking a simple question. What do you see? Great ideas start on Mac. Find out more on apple.com/Mac.
Every Who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton. But where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one Who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and no prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
All right, Jim, there's a tie-in here to the original Big Thunder Mountain Railroad at Disneyland Park and the railroad at the Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, the Magic Kingdom's Railroad has been closed since December 3rd, 2018. And Are you hearing the same things that they're looking to open it up, this month? Soonish.
Yeah. They've got the it looks like they've got the raised walkway outlined.
Yeah, and once work is completed on the walkway and the canopy entrance for Light Cycle Run, then supposedly finally the train can get back and running. So, all right, if we're counting, and that does in fact happen in January or early February, that's 3 years and a month since this initially closed to the public. And let's be fair, not all of this is Disney's fault. The pandemic kept the Florida parks closed from March 16th of last year through July 11th, 2020. Kingdom and Animal Kingdom opened on the 11th of that month, and then Epcot and Hollywood Studios opened on July 15th. So again, 4 months, not their fault. But Disney enthusiasts are still, if you go online, it's like, this sort of delay wouldn't have happened back in Walt's day. And it's like, okay, let me remind you folks about Disney's Chicken Plantation Restaurant. I think we've talked about this, Len. This was something that Swift operated at the park from when it opened in 1955, and it closed on January 8th, 1962, because Walt had intended to build an entire New Orleans-themed land at his Family Fun Park. And
it's never going to work.
Yes. But yeah, Disneyland's construction team flattens that whole chunk of territory, and they get as far as digging the cellar hole for Rogues Gallery, which you remember.
Wait, this is 62?
62.
Pirates doesn't open for many years after this, right?
67.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Is that the story? Go ahead, Jim.
There we go.
Go ahead.
They get as far as digging the cellar hole for Rogues Gallery, which was going to be the original walk-through rather than ride-through Pirates. But then Walt gets distracted by ride shows and attractions for the 64-65 World's Fair, and likewise Land Search for Project Florida. And so all work on Disneyland's New Orleans Square effectively stops in early 63. In fact, Bruce Gordon, lovely late Imagineer, great Disney historian, he loved to tell the story about when he was a kid who wanted to be Imagineer. He'd climb up to the very top of the Swiss Family Treehouse, which had only just opened in November of 62. And he peered down into the Rogues Gallery cellar hole. He'd go to the park like every 2 weeks or so, and it's like, okay, let me show me progress, and nothing. Just bare steel. Okay. And it was a year and a half before anything happened, and construction doesn't get underway again till January of 65, and with the land opening in July of 66, and then the ride opening in March of 67. So you got to assume if the internet had existed back in the early 1960s, again, using the same power, the technology that powered the Polaris missiles, you'd still have Disneyland enthusiasts. It's been over 3 years since the Chicken Plantation closed. When is he going to get around, Walt going to get around to finishing Rogues Gallery? And let's not even talk about the Haunted Mansion.
Oh, geez.
The exterior was completed late 62, early 63, doesn't open till 6 years and 7 months later.
Yeah.
So again, there's an old English proverb, folks, that say all things come to those who wait, and Light Cycle Run near is what Len and I are being told. Are you hearing the same thing? Possibly holiday 22, more likely early 2023, or
everything I've heard says it depends, and it depends largely on how much management is willing to prioritize it, and I think that's the big thing right now.
There is a certain follically challenged gentleman who's about to take over the company.
Yeah.
You might want to make the new boss happy.
Jim, what I've heard was that it's going to come down to a management priority. We know that Guardians of the Galaxy is opening summer of 2022, which is sometime between the third week of June and the third week of September. it looks like they need something for the fall, I think Tron could be ready by then, depending on how far out bookings look. Or they could just say, look, we've got nothing for 2023, and so we're going to open it in 2023. I kind of think that's the more likely scenario, but it's a management decision here. Yeah,
you're not wrong. It is definitely a management decision. The one little wrinkle, and I heard this on the tail of the survey you read last week about the 50th anniversary. And the thinking in-house is, if the 50th anniversary continues to underperform the way it has been, and in fact that there's really strong eyeballing of the holiday numbers and that sort of thing,
which are not super solid right now.
So the thinking is that they honestly may have no choice. Yes, the numbers will get goosed by opening Guardians, but in order to really fill all of the resorts on property and stay competitive, they may have to effectively bring Tron Lightcycle Coaster online for holiday 2022 and be promoting it heavily in the fall to get people to come in.
I mean, let's think about this financially. Anything that happens after October 1st, 2022 will be in the 2023 fiscal year. So from Disney's fiscal perspective, right, why would they not open it on October 1 to get a full fiscal year of benefit from the ride? Why would you wait until the middle of 2023 to open it? Unless they're saying, look, we've got absolutely nothing to run for ads in 2023. We need this. Right, but why would you delay it a quarter? Because let's say the first quarter of Disney's 2023 fiscal year begins October 1. It ends at the end of December. So if they open it in January, it would still be the same fiscal year, but they would just have lost a quarter of the attendance and revenue boost that would come from opening a new ride.
You're hearing exactly what I've been hearing.
So for me, it's either going to open October 1st or sometime in 2023. Those are the only two dates I think that make sense.
But again, at the same time, you are beholden to, if you get tripped up by construction. And remember, we've been dealing with the rising price of steel and trouble with getting construction workers because they've left the Central Florida area. I mean, but face it, throw rides are tough, especially when they're built partially inside of the berm. And which brings us now to the original Big Thunder Mountain, which opened September of 1979. It opened on the Sunday of that year's long Labor Day weekend. Monday, September 3rd was the actual Labor Day. So they got a toehold in summer.
Okay.
But as for the attraction that previously occupied this spot, Mine Trains Through Nature's Wonderland, it made its last trip to the Painted Desert and rolled by those tilting rocks and Old Unfaithful on January 2nd, 1977.
I got to say, Jim, this is the one attraction that I regret not seeing. Adventures Through Inner Space, I can, I'm fine with that. There are a couple of old things too, but man, Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland looks to be such a classic Frontierland attraction. It's the one thing I regret not seeing.
I will have to dig out when my family went to Disneyland in the summer of 77. My dad with his little 16 millimeter camera. It's a surprising amount of footage on that attraction, but I think that was largely because it was outdoors and you had the early primitive animatronics that you could see from the train. So in a weird sort of way, it's very well documented largely because of that reason. Because if you went indoors and did something like Pirates or Mansion, the lighting just wasn't in your favor.
Wasn't there, right. Yeah. Okay, so this closes January 2nd, 1977, so
after a
45 years ago?
Yep, a 17-year run.
And then construction immediately began on Big Thunder Mountain, right?
Not exactly.
Go ahead.
Disney's board of directors actually had to be convinced that the company's Anaheim theme park actually needed another thrill ride. This was kind of a hard sell at the time because this is January of 77, and Disneyland's version of Space Mountain hasn't even opened at this point. In fact, we are now still 4 months out from when that Tomorrowland thrill ride will finally open on May 27th, 77. And given that the board had already given Disneyland $18 million to build Space Mountain, there's now some real hesitancy among board members 4 months out from this attraction that they don't know. The one in Florida opened in January 75 and is doing great business, but doesn't necessarily translate This is still a company, the board is still smarting from, you were the same people who told us big Country Bear was going to do so well. We needed to build 2 theaters out here in California. And that thing's a dud. And you're now asking us for an additional $17 million to build a thrill ride for Frontierland. And by the way, inflation calculation, $18 million in today's money, Len, is 82.2 million, and whereas 17 million is 77.9 million. So,
holy cow.
But here's the thing. The Imagineers have to go to the board and say, look, you don't understand. We now, as Disneyland, face some serious competition in the Southern California tourism market. In fact, Magic Mountain opened Revolution, the first modern roller coaster with a vertical loop, May 4th, 76. All right, so Disneyland literally is already behind the times. That by the time Space Mountain opens in May of 77, giving the park its first new thrill ride in 18 years, Len. Matterhorn had opened back in June of 59. So it's like, yeah, that will give you something to promote in 77 and 78. But what are we doing in 79? So if we're going to stay competitive with the Magic Mountains of the world, we need to start working on our next thrill ride even before the Anaheim version of Space Mountain opens in May of 77.
This is the pipeline, right? This is the thing we all know, right?
But the board...
but it was new back then. It was new back in the 70s.
No, absolutely. And the board still wasn't convinced. So on February 9th, 1977, WDI does something unusual. Now, this year is the very first year that Disney's annual shareholders meeting is held down at the Orange County Convention Center in Anaheim. Years previously, Disney had rented the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, and those of you who remember watching the Academy Awards with Billy Crystal, that's where it was held in the 80s and the 90s, up in LA. But anyway, the meeting's supposed to be held at the convention center at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which, by the way, is just across the Disneyland parking lot on the other side of Catella. Shareholders who've come down are given tickets to go into Disneyland in the morning with the idea that, okay, then come across the street in the afternoon, attend the meeting. And what the Imagineers decided to do, because the board members were going to come down and stay in the Disneyland Hotel the previous night. So, it's just a short, they're not driving down the 5 to get to the meeting. So the morning of February 9th, the Imagineering sends a fleet of vans over to the hotel. They collect the board. They drive them around backstage at Disneyland and eventually, bring them out at Casa del Fritos, where they serve them breakfast and then walk them outside to overlook the old Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland load and unload area and proceed to tell them about, okay, look, I understand we're asking for $17 million, but let me explain to you what we're going to do to keep that cost down. Like, take, for example, look at Rainbow Ridge over here, the little town. We're going to save that and recycle that. So we don't even have to build that set. That's already here. And we're going to go through and cherry pick out individual animatronics and ride elements and recycle those. And this is kind of a gamble, to do an on-site pitch like this, but especially with the board now having to go across the street and listen to the shareholders complain about, why are you spending money on movies like The Shaggy DA? That's dumb. But 2 days later, the board meets again on the Burbank lot to act on the items that had actually been brought up at the shareholders meeting in Anaheim. And at that time, construction of Big Thunder Mountain for Disneyland is officially greenlit as finally, the funds to build this new thrill ride are approved. So 3 weeks after that, maintenance salvage begins. And when I say maintenance salvage, this is when literally the Imagineers walking the length of the 17-year-old Frontierland attraction, looking for things they can potentially save or recycle.
Putting like yellow bows around the trees that they want to save. And
speaking of which, the horticulture department is walking through, looking at a lot of the full-size trees that were part of Nature's Wonderland. And same thing, they're going through and, okay, take that, and they would box them up and take them backstage and then look for new places around Disneyland to plant them. What made the construction of Big Thunder Mountain kind of challenging at Disneyland was in February of that year, news broke that for the first time since 1958, Disneyland was going to switch over in the late winter, early spring to a 7-day-a-week operation schedule.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
They hadn't done that, as far back as 55. as soon as the first summer was completed, Disneyland closed on Mondays, and it wasn't till after the winter of 57 that they they made one more try at doing a 7-day-a-week schedule during the off season. And it's like, all right, forget it. Off season, we're a strictly Wednesday to Sunday operation. And the other thing, they also, they had seen a surge in attendance that, it was like, look, we have to address this, because they had just introduced. In fact, what was interesting, I actually started pursuing this story because a number of people wrote in after your great Paul Castle being thrown off the Matterhorn story. But they wanted to know about, you mentioned that one of the perks of going to this hard ticket was, the unlimited use of Disneyland, of the ride shows and attraction. Well, when did that first become available to the public? And it's like, well, it sort of became available to the public in January of that year.
Oh, go ahead. Good.
Yeah, with the Magic Kingdom, for the Magic Kingdom Club, which was, the corporate groups, the military members who could, buy special discounted tickets at the Disneyland Park.
I was a member of the Magic Kingdom Club back in the day. Yeah.
As was I. But yeah, these were the first people who were offered the passport to Disneyland, which you had to be a valid member, but you could get a full day at Disneyland with unlimited use of attractions. But I always love how they included in parentheses, except the shooting gallery. Stop asking. We're not going to let you do that.
Which is ironic because it's free now.
Well, that's what I mean. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for America. That, the excitement about it's as a kid sitting there and shooting little lead pellets at targets is no longer what
every single time I walk by it, Jim, even to this day, I still play the French Airline Shooting Arcade. Jim, you mentioned the tourism thing, though, and wasn't it, what year was airline deregulation done in it was in the 70s. It was the late 70s, right, in the United States. I wonder if that played into this, because if you're getting increased vacationers from the western part of Canada, from Portland, from Seattle and Phoenix, that tells me that airfare is cheap because no one's driving from, Canadians.
That's true. All right.
I wonder if airline deregulation played into this.
I did not think of that. I'll have to do some research. But yeah, so the 1-2 punch of they were getting this new surge of folks from Portland, Seattle, and as you mentioned, Western Canada, coupled with the fact that they were seeing this surge in Magic Kingdom Club members who were anxious to take advantage of the passport.
Yeah.
Which the thing that fascinates me is that on June 1st, this was only offered from January 5th through March 31st of 77. As of June 1st, they literally made everybody go back to the ticket books. So it's like one of these things where, was this a test run to see what would happen inside the park with, a whole bunch of people who were on passports? Because, I don't need to tell you with, your unofficial guide, hat on, that would change how people made their decisions. It wasn't a question of looking in the book.
Yeah, you'd stay much longer. And this is one of those things where I would love to talk to the people who were around at Disney when they made the switchover, just to see how the logistics of visiting changed once people realized they could stay in the park all day.
Yeah. So Disneyland Park now open 7 days a week through much of the spring. Early week on Big Thunder Mountain Railway now starts to fall behind a schedule. And, again, the more things change, the more things stay the same, Len. And by the way, the first 2 original versions of Big Thunder were supposed to be built in parallel. The construction schedule in Florida, which in theory should have been easier, because think about it. Big Thunder in Florida, it's not in the middle of the park like, the Disneyland version. It was actually off to the side on a previously undeveloped piece of territory, but it still manages to slip 14 months behind schedule. That one doesn't open till November 15th, 1980.
I wonder if the fact that Big Thunder in the Magic Kingdom is bordered on one side by the Rivers of America and the other by the railroad, I wonder if that...
So now we circle back once again to what's going on with Tron Life Cycle Run. Tell you what, let me do some research to see if I can find out how long the train was shut down for.
Oh, great question. Yeah.
Yeah, back then for this, but yeah, I again, I think that's the thing that always makes me a little crazy about Disney theme park enthusiasts. It's like, I want it now. It's like, well, it's steel, it's concrete. And more to the point, yeah, there is this thing called the envelope of protection and safety. And, you really don't want the steel beams falling on the people in the train. They get cranky when that happens. So
they tend to buy less T-shirts in the gift shop. Yeah,
there you go.
That's good to know. I'm really excited to see what they decide to come up with for Tron, because like I said, and you and I have talked about this on the show, but there's really nothing in the pipeline for 2023 if Tron opens in 2022. And even beyond that, I mean, what's 2024 and 2025? And I expect to hear that soon.
Yep. I was also poking at a story I did to the effect of, when you look at what the first 6 months or so of when Michael Eisner was on the job, what he greenlit, and Bob Iger, the first 6 months when he was on the job, what he greenlit. Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see once Mr. Chapek has fully assumed the driver's seat, what we're going to see start to get announced at the Disney parks. So stand by, folks.
When's the next big Disney meeting where they might announce those things? I mean, there's the quarterly shareholder meetings, but when's the next Destination D or D23? That's not till fall of 2022, right?
In fact, they were just announcing the ticket sales date for the Destination D, the expo. Bob Iger and Xenia Muka were the two main drivers behind D23. Again, affinity organization for the Walt Disney Company. I'm hearing that Bob Chapek isn't necessarily as big as an enthusiast. In fact, it's worth noting that the most recent D23 event, the one that was held, the weekend after we did our Disney Dish Live thing, Chapek opted out of that. He actually didn't go down to speak at that event. Again, with Iger and Xenia out the door, D23 loses its champion. Or champions, and just might be interesting to see what happens with that. So
how it evolves.
Yeah, and if you're a fan of the D23 Expo, make sure to catch this new one in 2022, because I'm not entirely convinced there will be one in 2024. So just saying.
Interesting. We'll see what happens.
Just saying. So.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for the Disney Dish show today. Please head on over to disneydish.bandcamp.com, where you'll find exclusive shows never before heard on iTunes, including Jim and I walking around all four Walt Disney World theme parks live. On next week's show, we have a special guest. Data storyteller Becky Gandelon explains how to make the most of Genie Plus reservations at all four Walt Disney World theme parks. You know there's going to be a ton of data on those. You can find more of Jim at jimhillmedia.com and more of me, Len, at touringplans.com. We're produced fabulously by Aaron Adams, who'll be interpreting One Direction's 2013 landmark album, Midnight Memories, at Winter Jam 2022 on Saturday, January 30th, starting at 6 p.m. at the Oakwood Center on the campus of Eastern Michigan University in beautiful downtown Ypsilanti, Michigan. Jim, I think that's the first time we've ever given a shout out to Ypsilanti, but it won't be the last.
Great name.
While Aaron's doing that, please go on to iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We will see you on the next show.
Okay, 42. Good.